Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Hello, friends. This is Spencer Love, your host of Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network. Don't forget you can head to wincolumnsports.ca for all of your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, be it your major promotions or from the great province of Alberta, Canada.
If you like podcasts and you are listening to Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Malowany,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling
and other sports we like.
Wrestling.
But we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
Like wrestling.
I mean, we like hockey.
And wrestling.
And we like football.
And wrestling.
And we also like to drink beer.
While wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
Is when we hope to drop, but sometimes Mike Malowany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word, because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
but
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
Yeah. Let's face it, the two of us, we're real.
And spectacular.
And we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
We're also strugglicious.
That we are.
That was kind of the key. We're supposed to be strugglicious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no. You're stupid, because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then, come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah.
Later,
he said.
Later, bitches.
All right, folks, welcome to part 2 of Backbreaker Media Honors as we talk about the top wrestling in Alberta for the year 2018. If you guys haven't listened to part 1, I highly recommend you do so.
Please flip the tape to side A.
No, that's the Sounds of Struggle and the Two Baked Hams last week. Come on now.
Which was excellent, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
I do have to give my shout out to those guys. I don't think I've ever really shouted out Two Baked Hams to the level they deserve, so you guys are great. There you go.
Absolutely. And
they're all awesome.
I'm sure we'll be getting some talk about...
That's what I talk about all the time.
I'm sure we're going to be talking a little bit about one member of the Two Baked Hams here later on in this best of this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
Jonah.
But as you can hear the aforementioned people in the background here, we have Andre C.
I'm so happy to be on this one. I loved the last one, but I'm really happy to be on this one.
KJ Cash.
Happy to be here. KJ Cash is dead.
And Win Column Sports is Spencer Love.
And Funaki. Funaki is here as well.
Funaki.
You
can tell how this podcast is going to go, folks. And don't forget, at the end of this podcast, we are going to have a very special announcement. If you guys have been looking on our Facebook page, we do have a progress and session sign up. We're finally going to reveal what the hell that means to everybody. So it's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a great time.
Wonderful time.
What a time.
Time.
All right, let's get on to these categories. And unlike the first half of the show, we had a little bit of a football huddle here in between podcasts. We're going to do these in reverse order now from what you've heard on the first podcast. So let's throw it out there right off the bat, boys and girl. Feud of the year.
Oh, man, who wants to take this one?
I will.
I got a couple.
Audrey, go ahead.
Reed Matthews versus the Millennial Rebels.
Done. 100% on my list, too.
I loved it. I love this feud all year. Him getting kicked out at the anniversary show, him returning at Night of Champions, and his war with the war he's had with Colton Kelly. I've loved it. His what the hell? But sorry, something else. But I love this feud. Like, Reed Matthews has evolved as a wrestler in this year. Like, I never gave a crap about this guy a year ago. I love this guy now.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Spencer.
Yep, I got to agree with you there. That's an absolutely fantastic pick. I think that, like you said, man, Reed Matthews, the thickness has really evolved into his own this year.
The king of thick style.
Excuse me, the king of thick style. Just has really grown into his own this year because he's always been, I guess to put it carefully because I don't want to put a guy under here, but like he's always been a bit of a faction member, not a faction leader, for lack of a better way to put it, while he was with the Millennial Rebels. I mean, he was a tag team champion with Colton Kelly, but he was also sort of... He was the Christian to Colton Kelly's Edge, for lack of a better comparison.
He was just always that other guy in the group.
Yeah, and I think that since the Millennial Rebels turned on him and since he came back at Night of Champions, he's just arguably been the biggest babyface on that roster. And that's coming from a roster with guys like Sheikh Shabazz and Mo Jabari and admittedly...
Best in the world,
and
MRB.
admittedly talented stable of faces, right? The guy's been fantastic. I think that he's been a fantastic asset as part of that feud. The other guys I got to give a quick shout out here too that you'll probably be able to cover in more depth than I am. Christian Strife versus Top Talent. And I can't really separate Jesse Youngblood and Heavy Metal in this one, but I think the feud between sort of those three and whoever Strife enlists at the time, been absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. KJ?
Oh, I'm at such a disadvantage when it comes to these because, spoiler alert, I'm on half these shows, so I don't get to watch the whole show. So I'm going to selfishly... I know. I don't get to keep up as much. Anywho, but selfishly, I'm going to pick a feud that I got to be part of, which was Pride versus Dylan Stone.
Damn it.
Okay, and I'll pick. How about I pick a secondary one as well?
I got tons, so don't worry.
I also really liked what they did with Pride versus Lumberjack Larry as well. I like watching those two. And then because I keep picking all of these because I'm actually involved with them, I like Dano Burns as well and Pride. They put on great matches. They had like 8 matches in the period of like 3 months, and I loved it. Loved it.
Andre, you're dying to say
I was
something
going
right
to
now.
say Dano versus Pride because that was phenomenal.
Okay.
Dano is one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. But another one was I'm going back to PWA again, and that's Sheikh Shabazz and the Lions versus Gabriel.
Yes. Yep.
Like that was and Gabriel is a guy who I hated. I'm sorry. I hated that character for the longest time. And over this past year and a half, 2 years, he's really grown into being one of the best guys in that roster. And he showed it, like, showing up in that ring with, like, those guys all the first half of the year. It's been phenomenal.
Now, myself personally, like, the one thing about this podcast compared to the other one is we all have seen different shows. We not necessarily have been to all the same shows. Like Andre and Spencer have been able to get to PWA more than I have just due to booking. Myself, I've been able to watch all the Pure Power Wrestling, Monster Pro Wrestling. KJ's been a lot more involved with RCW along with Spencer and Andre. So we have a real dichotomy of picks here. While I really enjoy the Pride Dylan Stone build-up, culminating with that spectacular match, which I'll talk about later here.
Which you can see on the Backbreaker Media VOD shit.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, we're going to get to that as well later. But
Plug.
there's
Plug.
there are some other feuds that I really want to bring up. The beginning of the year between Crazy Core and Irishman, the intensity through
You
that
don't
feud.
say. I was also part of that.
Yes.
My bias comes straight through because I'm
Don't-
sorry.
hey.
If I'm not literal ringside.
Hold on, hey, you know what? I might as well just throw this out right now. The Envy Angelica feud that came up throughout the second half of 2018, culminating with Angelica winning the RCW Women's Championship in December. As I'm getting the evil eye from one person in this room here.
It's me. It's me. I'm giving him the evil eye. You know it.
Not
dare you bring that up? I'm gonna start crying. Where's
you.
the tissues?
You have to have a heart to start crying, so don't even worry about it.
You're absolutely not wrong.
Two other ones that I'd like to bring up is the feud between Gunnar and the Top Rope.
You prick.
Hey, that's you can steal that for Moment of the Year.
Yeah, but you know what, man? Like, the biggest thing that I hate is 50-50 booking. And Gunnar's cleared the rope once, and Gunnar fell over the rope once.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it almost went over on him when he was in that battle royal. It went over on him.
Actually, it did knock him out again.
It went over on him because he
Well,
fell
so
again.
now we've even got the typical Dusty finish in there, and
Fair enough.
we're gonna see this at Mania.
So, as much as we like to laugh, my actual pick for feud of the year is something that
You have an actual pick, not just a
this
recommendation.
one I actually have a pick, and it's because a lot of people haven't been able to see it in northern Alberta. This feud has been going on literally since last December, and it has culminated just this past Saturday.
Chris Parrish is calling me.
What a coincidence!
I know what you're talking about,
the-
and I have never seen this feud.
The feud that's culminating as my feud of the year is Kyle Sebastian
Cougar
and
meat.
Chris Parrish for over the PPW Heavyweight Championship,
As soon as you brought this up, I knew what you were talking about.
which Chris Parrish actually won this past Saturday in Lethbridge.
Yeah, baby.
At absolutely phenomenal feud where these guys were going left, right, and center at each other. They even involved families in this. I managed to see Chris Parrish almost kill himself coming off a ladder going after Sebastian into the ring onto some chairs. But the psychology behind this feud just proved to me that this, without a doubt, was the feud of the year in Alberta.
Completely fair.
And if you don't believe me, go check out the VOD and find out.
Backbreakervod.pivotshare.com.
Or powerslam.tv, which there is a cheap plug at the beginning of the show for that.
Backbreakervod.pivotshare.com.
No, I don't disagree. Like you said, this is one of those things that I unfortunately just did not get to see enough of. I think a live experience does add a lot to a feud, so that's why it wasn't really something that had first come to mind on my end. Kyle Sebastian, he's a guy a lot like Christian Strife to me. He's a guy that I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've watched. I need to watch more of him to fully appreciate how good he is. But, man, I think you and I have had the conversation more than once. I think I've probably had the conversation more than once with each of you. Like, Parrish is one of the most underappreciated talents, not only in Alberta but worldwide, as far as wrestling goes.
We'll get to that when we start talking about our male wrestlers of the year, because we're going to be going for a while on that. Andre, you had a point to make before we move on?
No, I'm gonna. I just from what Spencer's talking about, I'm going to make up a category right now, and it's still within wrestling, but it's for our wrestling podcast. Interview of the year, and I just because
You know what? We'll come back to it. I'll give Spencer some time to think about it.
think on that
I know what I'm gonna say.
But
I want that to exist
we'll go
on
a
this
couple
show.
categories.
All right.
We'll go a couple categories, and then we'll talk about that. So
Yeah.
next up, moment of the year. I have a special moment in mind myself. Andre,
I'm going to say one, and then you're going to come back to me because I'm just need to think of another. It's best entrance ever. Gunnar falling over that rope. Why this one's so special to me is that about a week after it went viral, became this huge video online. My best friend, who's not a wrestling fan at all, got this video shared to him by a random ass person. And he shared it to me. He said, "Oh, dude, this is the funniest thing. Have you ever seen this?" Just to me was the funniest thing in the world because I'm sitting just off to the left of that camera, and that guy is my friend. I laugh, and it just to me that makes that moment so much more just from stuff that's happened after it. People that I know showing me this video and going, I'm just sitting to and it just makes me love that moment so much.
Spencer?
I've got a few. I think best entrance ever is going to appear on everyone's list as an honorable mention, even if it is just an honorable mention for everybody. The few that I've got, I think, in no particular order of importance or ranking.
Which we don't have here, so go
exactly. I think Mitch Clark and Lumberjack Larry winning the tag team championships at the Renegade Memorial was absolutely fantastic. I think that those are two guys who I'm sure will appear later in this podcast when you get into the rest of the categories, but those are two guys who are just terrific wrestlers, terrific people, and people you want to see win. They're just natural baby faces to both of them. I think them winning the tag team championships there was absolutely fantastic. In a similar fashion, I think that Sheik Shabazz cashing in his briefcase to defeat former PWA champion Jay Lethal for the PWA championship was
He should have
terrific.
never been champion.
And to be honest with you, just, as in kayfabe as possible, to how else are you going to take a championship off of MRB? And third, the one that I sort of want to do, and the one that I am upset that I missed, to be quite honest with you, due to my shoot job, Duke Durango's retirement. I think that guy is a guy who I think we can all sit and agree is a Canadian wrestling legend at the very least. And he's someone who, as much as we appreciate him here personally, and I know we're not the only ones who appreciate the guy, I think that guy is definitely someone who is underappreciated in this province, in Canada, and in wrestling overall, because he's just been one of the most consistently entertaining guys to watch. He's a guy that I grew to love wrestling because of, and maybe not a top moment, but a moment of the year for sure is the end of just the proverbial end, because I know Shawn Michaels retired too. But one of the ends to the best careers in Alberta.
I want to take up on that, and part of that is the speech he gave after. It was so good. The entire crowd, we all stood up and cheered him, and then all the wrestlers came out from the back and surrounded the ring and were clapping for him. Kurt got in the ring with them. A few guys get in the ring, and Chris Steele was in there, and it's such a good feeling. He talked about, probably went for a good 10, 15 minutes talking, and everybody was standing up the entire time. Everybody loved it. It was so great.
Yep. 100%. Rage Cage.
Ooh, who dat? Yeah, I had Sheik's cash-in as one of my favorite moments. I was in the building, so I got to see it, and I was just like, oh, I loved it. Obviously, Mitch and Larry winning the tag titles was also one of my moments. And I also, we kind of talked about it on our podcast, Spencer, but Angelica winning the RCW Women's Championship was also one of my moments, just because I know.
don't believe that.
Kayla liked it. My counterpart didn't like that moment so much. However, there were some great moments, but those were definitely my favorites.
Now, before you hand off the mic back to Spencer here, one of the moments that we've been talking about, I want you to bring up something that you told me about this incident here. At PWA, when Sheik was cashing in the contract.
Okay.
Can you explain what you were doing at that moment? Because to me, that's the thing that sold me on this moment.
On the Sheik cash-in?
Yeah. What were you doing at the time?
So I was not wrestling that show because I was a little concussed and fun stuff. So I was actually working with Ricky Steamboat that whole night. And during that cash-in, him and I were sitting there drinking a beer together. Who would have fucking thought that? Me not. We're sitting there, and he turns to me, and he was like, Kayla, what the hell is happening?
The fact that he was shocked about it, to me, makes me
Yeah.
makes me happy for that moment.
And honestly, like, we talked about this on Win Column in that podcast Spencer and I did, but I actually didn't know that moment was happening. I don't like to ask people, unless I'm directly involved in the match, I don't ask for results beforehand. So when that moment happened, I was just as confused. And I turned to Steamboat and I said, I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. But it was just a great moment. And the fact that I had Ricky Steamboat asking me what was going on was pretty cool, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's one of my points. And the other one has, once again, it's just like in the other podcast when I mentioned the women's movement. To me, there's always been a women's division in wrestling in Alberta, and it's, for lack of a better term, it's been there. It hasn't made any impact. It hasn't been brought to another level. Then I got a chance to see some footage from Calgary when there was a no DQ match. Well, there was a match in the ring between Jasmine, Angelica, and Envy. Following the match, there was pretty much a Pure Six brawl on the outside involving popcorn boxes, cookie sheets, and super kicking Stormgrads.
Who did that? That sounds like a punk band. Who did that?
To me, that was the moment that the RCW women's division took it to another level and showed that they're ready to hang with the boys and made their matches must-see wrestling. To me, that's the point where women's wrestling really took off. The other promotions are trying, but that moment right there, the sense of realness and the sense of hatred between those three just took it to another level, if you ask me.
I'm blushing.
Folks, I hate to say it, but we're probably going to have a bunch of that. Andre.
I got two more. One's very self-serving, the other's not. The first one, Big Jess Youngblood winning the Bone Crusher Billy Day Memorial Battle
absolutely.
Royal. That was a huge moment, being that him and Jess were really, really good friends. An emotional moment to see in the ring. And, yeah, big moment. And the other one, getting to ring announce the final RCW show of the year. I loved it.
Yeah, how did it feel getting to announce my twin sister to the ring?
I really enjoyed it. It was my first time getting to announce her. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was really shitty that I screwed up Gunnar's weight and called him in at 250 instead of 350.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Well, you know what, that inflated...
But I love seeing Kyle get beat up, so...
With that inflated ego, you know, because his head's so big, it lifts his body off the scale a little bit, so it's all good. On a greedy note, my last moment as MPW commissioner, general manager, the standing O in the ring from the fans, I'll take that.
Lots of tears, you know, from Mike.
There was a lot of sweat coming down from
He
Chris
claimed they were
Powers in
fake
the back.
tears.
You're saying you sweat out of your eyes?
Moving on.
It was raining in the building.
Yeah, that's
Dude, I cried and I wasn't even there.
you liar.
I'd
Next
left the
category.
building by that
Next
point.
category.
I cried too, but that was because I lost my title at the same time you were getting.
Yeah, probably. Moving on to our next category, Best Newcomer. Now, we've had quite a few new wrestlers come through the Alberta region here in the last few months. Who wants to go first here? By all means.
Yeah.
KJ, you're
Okay,
up.
so the only reason I did want to go first is because I had a few, and so I had three, and I put them best newcomer because I actually trained with all three of them. So I have Mitch Clark, I have Son of Irish, and then I have T.Y. Jackson. Trained with all three of them. they were great to train with. Love training with them. But then I see their most recent matches, and I go, holy crap! Look at that development. Hands down, they're putting on great matches. Boom, there it is.
Absolutely, Andre.
Son of Irish. I agree because he'll come up later in the show for me. Mitch Clark, who mainly because I've been a fan of that guy for years, because I'm a big UFC fan, and getting to see him and meet him in such a small setting was really awesome. And I got to give him a shout out because he hasn't been the greatest here, but I really enjoyed him this year. Barry Grayson out of PWA. I thought he's added some freshness in being able to give new matches to PWA, which we haven't had in a while. And I really enjoyed seeing just a new face there. You don't have to like it. This is just my opinion.
I'm gonna sneeze. My turn. I guess that Mitch Clark is going to be a clean sweep on this side of the couch. I think that the guy's he's just got natural talent for combat sports. I have no real other way to put it. That's pretty obvious to say, considering the guy was a UFC fighter. But not everybody can make the transition this well from MMA to professional wrestling or sports entertainment. And I think that the guy has had an absolutely awesome year. That was evident. Like, I bring up the Renegade Memorial. He's already a guy who's held gold in wrestling within his first year in there. He's a guy who's already being advertised as another Alberta Indy Dream match with him and Christian Strife coming up, and it's fully deserved on that end. I think that he's a guy who's going to be huge in Alberta, and I think he's on pace for a huge 2019. The other guy, and we sort of debated on this one because I wasn't all that familiar with him, but he's not a newcomer per se. He's just more a newcomer to me. Sweet Daddy Soul. I think that, number one, anyone who's going to enter to the payolas deserves a huge amount of credit. Absolutely fantastic. And secondly, he's a guy, the first RCW show, and Mike, you and I were on quick calls on this one, and I enjoyed what he did, but I also was left wanting more out of him. And I think by the end of the year, he was a guy who consistently delivered, and was a guy who I was anxious to see every match that he was in. And I think that him winning the, I know it's not the name, so excuse my ignorance here, but winning the RCW Money in the Bank briefcase, or whatever iteration you want to call it, was huge for him. And again, much like Mitch Clark, it puts him on pace for a huge 2019.
I literally had, I know Sweet Daddy Soul. I've become friends with him over the last couple of years, and I had to, because I was announcing that show, I had to do everything not to just run up and hug him after he won, because I was like, I have to keep this somewhat professional.
Yeah,
don't run up and hug him.
Absolutely, and for me, you could take a ton of wrestlers out of Monster Pro Wrestling here as part of your best newcomer, mainly because that's the developmental format that they have now. You look at a guy like T.Y. Jackson and his tag team partner, King B. Mm-hmm. In the few matches that he's had, he's been absolutely spectacular in. Just got to rein it in and control, and he could be a superstar for years to come. And then, of course, you guys said it right off the bat. Mitch Clark, class act out of the ring, in the ring. This wrestling career will go as far as he wants to take it. So, but one person that you didn't mention, and I know KJ is going to be a little sour that she didn't think of it. I'm going down to Lethbridge for the former PPW Cruiserweight champion, Jumpin' Josh, who just came up from. Folks, I'll tell you this: for that answer that Andre just gave, you definitely need to check out PPW Power Slam. Watching this guy, he is one of the top cruiserweights in Alberta right now, and I'd really like to see him get in with the current RCW junior heavyweight champion Pride. But KJ's not
Make
in
it happen.
Approval, so
make it happen. I had a match with that little Jumpin' Josh, and it was great.
Helping book Radway in there, Mike?
Mr. Pride already has a match.
Yeah,
but we can bring him up for somebody else at least.
Well, I've had a match with him.
We
I'll take him.
Hey, right there. Book it.
Squig,
I would actually like to see Son of Irish versus Jumpin' Josh.
Squig, call me.
Do it.
Yeah,
Son of
I
Irish
would like
versus
to see
Jumpin'
that.
Josh.
But anyway,
Do it.
Let's move on to our next category here before we enter the impromptu category here. Most improved. Now, we've had a lot of improved wrestlers here this year. Andre.
Goes along with my feud of the year, Reed Matthews. He started off this year being just that other guy in the Millennial Rebels and has turned into probably one of the most over guys in the PWA. So good. And then my other one is Mitch Clark, because if you watch him when he first started this year, he was still learning his ropes, and man, he's really turned it on towards the end of the year, man. Like he's really, you can see his charisma really starting to form. He's getting he's getting a lot more comfortable in the ring. So yeah, I usually give a shout to those two.
KJ?
My most improved is actually, I'm going to go with Mitch Clark's partner, Lumberjack Larry. And he's always been really good, but I think the one thing that I've noticed that he's most improved on is his confidence, and how he can control a match now. Watching some of his stuff that he did with Pride in the last few months, I just watched him and I said, damn, like, look at this guy compared to where he was before his knee injury. Different wrestler, different vibe. I think he's most improved, besides Mitch and him.
Spencer.
I've got a few, to be quite honest with you. I think that I think you bring up Reed Matthews. I think you're completely correct on that one, Andre. I think he's just been fantastic. But I think even on top of Reed Matthews, I think you could probably put every member of the Millennial Rebels in this category for their own reasons.
Except one.
I disagree, to be quite honest with you. I think that this is the perfect example of why a faction in its best iteration can benefit everybody. I think that Colton Kelly, and I've said it before, but he is a guy I've enjoyed booing throughout his entire career in PWA, and this was the year I enjoyed booing him most, because this was the year...
I liked booing him when he was in Force Pro Wrestling.
I think to me that this is the first year that he hasn't just had a great match or had a great character. This is the first year for me where he's really put it all together and not only done great character work, which he's always done, but had great matches, had a statement feud, which up to this point I don't really think he's had, and I think is really essential for any improving or great or starting wrestler. Regardless of where you're at, you're only as good as your best feud. And this has been an excellent feud. So, needless to say on that end, like Dr. Kyoto, the Titan, Fury, Kenneth Anthony, all have benefited in their own ways as well, and all have markedly improved. Another guy that I want to put on the list that maybe isn't a most improved, but a guy that I've really sat down and said, holy shit, over the last year is PWA Commonwealth Champion, Sean Moore. I think that he's someone that...
How did I forget about him?
Right. He's had some injury trouble. I know that. How much of an extent that's had in his career, I don't know a ton. But he's just a fantastic wrestler. He's a guy who gets it done in the ring every time he's in there. And if that guy just develops a little more on... I don't want to say the personality side, because he's a great guy. On sort of the ring personality side of things, he's going to be a star. Like an absolute star. To sort of be shorter and sweeter than I have been here, the last two I've got for the list, Pride. If you guys want to hear my full thoughts on that one, head to the last Over the Top Rope of 2018, featuring my good friend KJ, sitting here on my right. It was a fantastic chat. And the other guy I want to shout out here, Kid Chocolate Mo Jabari. I think since the Resolution Rumble in January, that guy has just been consistently up and up and up, to the point that I would have never pictured that guy wrestling in matches with guys like MRB and guys like BVD at the start of the year. And now he's a guy that not only do I see wrestling those guys, but I want to see wrestling those guys. So Mo Jabari's on there this year, and in the best possible way. He's also a guy I could see being on that same spot next year on the most improved list.
I got one more. Epic Eddie Rude. I thought he was a good hand, like when he worked for MPW, was there, and then he come over to RCW, kind of over, but he's become like a star for them. Yep. Like he become like one of their number one guys.
True enough, was a star, because if you guys listen to Sounds of Struggle this week, Eddie Rude's retired at this point apparently. So, to your point about Sean Moore, and I want to give a shout out to Robert David Munson and his great coverage of the HIW product out of Saskatchewan.
Absolutely.
HIW Spring Meltdown 2018, their big show of 2019. Holy crap. Folks,
Time flies, right?
Time
you're
flies
throwing watches.
when you're losing hair.
I think throwing watches works a little better there.
Fair enough. Sean Moore, Michael Richard Blaze. That's their main event.
I'm very much debating driving.
I was going to say who's up for a drive.
I am.
Exactly.
There's not much else you can say other than that. That would be fantastic.
Speaking more to your comments about Pride, to me at this time last year, Pride was a formidable wrestler who, if he had somebody good in the ring with him, was able to have a very good match. If his opponent wasn't that good, it was iffy at best if they were going to have a good match or not, because he didn't know how to control a match.
Yeah.
Throughout 2018, he has improved to the point where it doesn't matter who he's with, he will have a good match. And that consistency is the reason why January 11th in Radway, my hometown, the Indy Dream match between MRB and Pride. My God, I can't believe I actually got it to happen.
I mean, I don't want to take credit. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I agree with you. I agree with you with when it comes to Mr. Pride, because I've been there for the last year for like 98% of his matches, and I see it 100%.
Well, okay. My only ever CWC show I went to was summer of 2017, and I remember him just kind of being a guy there. It was good, but wasn't like spectacular to me. And then see him come to RCW and the character he's portrayed. Yeah, it's a huge evolution for this guy. He's improved so much.
And someone else in particular I want to bring up, and with great characters, great feuds produces better personalities and better wrestlers. I'm going to talk about Angelica right now. The fact that she has gone to another level to the point where promotions in Mexico are asking for her. She just come back off a show in, I believe it was Monterrey, Mexico. Fantastic worker, had some great opponents to work with. And I can't wait to see what Angelica has in store for 2019. Now, speaking in Lethbridge as well, one person that I would say this time last year, the best you could say was a good complimentary piece to the Wild Child Tyler James, Sidney Steele. I think at this point now, Steele has gotten to the point where technically he is one of the better wrestlers you can see in Alberta in terms of a personality, even though he decided to call me out in the middle of a show one time. And you can hear the chime in the background. That's my doorbell ringing, which I'm not expecting anybody.
Chris Parrish, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is.
You think so?
I'm 99.9.
We're going to pause
let him
this.
in.
Excuse us for the momentary interruption there. We're now joined by a spectator for a podcast here. You want to say hi? That's Chris Parrish not saying hi. So, I think we're done.
Why are you so obsessed with me? You had to come find me? What a liar. Carry on, Michael the ref.
All right. Well, Spencer.
Listen, I'm pissing off my wife.
Marriage counseling at its finest, courtesy of Backbreaker Media. Spencer, now let's get to that special category just for you here, my friend.
Yes.
The top.
Can I go first?
Is it like my favorite interview of the year?
Well, it's gonna
Who
be for
I
all of us,
interviewed
but
or who I listened to be interviewed.
one
Doesn't
or
really
the
matter.
other.
Okay.
My favorite interview of the year, Spencer Love interviewing Michael Richard Blaze. I love that interview. I got to interview him before you did, but I really enjoyed that interview.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I learned some shit I never knew about that guy.
MRB, we got round 3. That's coming up.
All
I've
right.
got a lot of like extended interviews with
When
people.
are we
though.
doing round 2?
I was just gonna say we've attempted that, but like Sherlock Holmes just plied us very, very well that afternoon.
I'm here now, so you don't have to worry about texting me back.
We got to finish this one, Mike. Chris and I are doing a podcast right after we finish up with this one.
Fair enough. Man, you're a busy man. It's like 4 hours of podcasting in one night. But anyway.
At least, depending on how long this one goes. Interview of the year for me, man, there have actually been a lot of good ones. You've brought it up already, but I thoroughly...
Yes, say the right one. Come on, say
Oh, shit.
the right one.
Was my lost interview with Mike the ref. No, I think that...
Damn right!
I think that the Two Baked Hams Part 1 and 2 featuring Tag Struggle was a blast to listen to. I think that the guys on Two Baked Hams are just great interviewers. The guys in Tag Struggle are great interviewees because you will get a lot of information whether you asked for it or not. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And to be quite honest with you, I really, really enjoy Talk is Jericho. Just to even go outside of the independent scene here in Alberta. My favorite independent interview that he has done, he did one with Jinder Mahal, if you want to tie it around to the Alberta independent scene. I thought that was fantastic because he spoke about it a bit, and any brighter light that we can shine on Alberta independent wrestling is fantastic. As far as anything outside of that, to be honest with you, I was a really lucky guy to interview a lot of really cool people this year. So even outside of like my interview questions, Parrish, I know you're spectating. It's great to interview you. KJ, always great to have you on the show. And, the other one that really, really stood out on my end, I really liked speaking to Mitch Clark, but it's been really, really cool to speak to both Leo London and Christian Strife over the last little bit. I know Leo's sort of outside of the Alberta independent scene, but
he was on an Alberta. He was on an Alberta podcast. That's
yeah,
the main
and
thing.
I think that both of them are just absolutely fantastic. Both as interviews and both as wrestlers, because both have very, very unique minds for the business while having very similar styles in the ring. Very excited for January 12th at Lakeland Pro Wrestling, because I can tell you I will be sitting at one of the exclusive media tables with my friend Mike the Ref to watch Christian Strife versus Mitch Clark at Lakeland Pro Wrestling. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are very simple here. While I appreciate how great your interviews are, I want to give a shout out right now to somebody who doesn't do video or do podcasts the stereotypical way. The guy that doesn't do interviews point by point like we've been professionally trained to do, right? Professionally?
Hey,
I was waiting for the laughter there, but
It's very much like the hit Will Ferrell movie Semi-Pro, in the sense that we are not pro.
I don't even think we're semi-pro.
likewise, but I digress. I want to give a shout out to Kyle Shaw.
Yep.
He has done a hell of a job with Monday Night Shaw.
I was a guest on that.
Like Andre was a guest on there, as well as the NVR was a guest on there. That was rather interesting.
The road trip show.
He managed to get a Steven Styles interview to actually sound half decently interesting,
I
without
don't believe you.
without having me having to sue him for something he said.
How much beer did you have before that?
I didn't interview him. Kyle did.
No, I know, but listening to it, though.
Ah, touche.
The question stands, Mike.
I'll even go as far as saying alcohol if you're not even a beer game.
And to finish off the year with Aiden Adams and Heavy Metal, that 2-hour piece of epicness, Kyle's done a hell of a job.
I see those quotations in the air.
And I can't wait to see what he has in store for 2019.
Shaw, you know what? That guy, even outside of best interview or anything on those lines, like Shaw is a guy who just deserves his own like special shout out segment on this show, because there is nobody that I can even think of off the top of my head who like just pure and simple loves wrestling like that guy, and pure and simple just gives himself to it. I know the guy's not a wrestler per se, but there is no ring announcer out there. There is no ring announcer out there
As he's getting death stares from both sides.
that I
of the
think
room.
has
I will 100% agree with that. Like
that I think has more. Sorry, I'll finish her off here, but that has more passion, not only for wrestling in general, but like for Alberta wrestling, for the people involved in Alberta wrestling, whether it be talent, whether it be the fact that every time I'm at an RCW show, the guy makes his way over to say hi to me. And I know he does the same for Andre, and he does the same for Mike. Like, Kyle Shaw, you are a hell of an individual, my friend, and we commend you.
I will second that. Like, a year and a half ago, I would have been like, oh crap. I would have been like, oh shit, he's gonna ring announces. But he's really developed into a great ring announcer for RCW.
Kyle Shaw for Most Improved 2018.
And yeah, we didn't even think.
2-time award winner,
Most
Kyle
Improved.
Shaw. Kyle 2 belts.
There you go.
Kyle, lots of belts.
Call him the champ.
Wait, we got
And he's best announcer, most improved, interview of the year, I guess. I don't know.
we got so many champions in here. It's not even funny. We got the PPW champ. We got.
No, you don't. No.
In our picks.
Anyway, let's continue on to the list that we originally had here. And this one's going to be a doozy, folks. Best match. Best match of 2018. There are a ton of great matches. Oh, God, Parrish wants the mic.
Does it have to go more than 6 minutes long?
I don't know if this is a trick question or not.
No. Does it have to go more than 6 minutes?
If it's a match, it's a match, it's a match.
Well, I was going to say, if it has to go longer than 6 minutes, everything in Monster Pro Wrestling's out.
Okay. I don't know where to go with that, but
Interesting.
Spencer, save us here. Throw us your match of the year here.
Well, shit, with 6 minutes, my squig matches are all out the door.
30 seconds.
I think as I qualify everything here, it's much like the Oscar Award winners will say that all the competition did great. Everyone nominated for an award was fantastic this year. I think that there were a few clear highlights for me. I think that Pride versus Stone, like you said, was an absolutely fantastic match. It was the first actual match that I got to watch of Stone's outside of the CWC Rumble, and it was an absolutely fantastic first experience watching him work. It was the first, not the first Pride match I've been impressed with, but the first one where I thought that he really made a statement as to how good he was. Another match that I thoroughly enjoyed, Parrish, while you're here, because it's actually on my list, Parrish versus Son of Irish, because for me that was such a cool match to watch. It was the first chance I actually got to watch Parrish wrestle live, so they say your first is always most memorable.
Just wait till Bonneville. You get to see it again.
I'll be there. But I think that it was absolutely fantastic, purely because I really liked the dynamic there. I mean, it's sort of a bit of a cliche trope, sort of the veteran taking on the inexperienced rookie. But I think that it was an absolutely fantastic match from the two of them. I think even more so than the match itself, I think the story told with it was terrific. And Mike, you and I have this talk often. I think the story behind a match is what makes the match. I think that the other match that I thoroughly enjoyed, and something that KJ and I brought up last week on Over the Top Rope, I think that MRB versus Jeff Tyler was easily one of my favorite matches of the year.
Jeff Tyler sucks. Jeff Tyler sucks.
Shut up, Andre.
Yeah, get out, Andre. I think it was fantastic, and I think that it was unfortunate that Jeff Tyler got hurt during that match, because I think that guy was primed for a very successful and fortuitous run in PWA. But I think that regardless, I think that match really made a statement, not only to how good MRB is, just because obviously working with a guy who's got a completely shattered ankle is going to impact any match, but I think it really speaks to how strong-willed or tough or whatever word you want to use here Jeff Tyler is. Like, the guy's taking a Spanish fly off the top rope with a shattered ankle. Again, as a guy who's never wrestled a day in his life, holy shit, that impresses a guy who's never wrestled a day in his life.
Andre.
As you made me think of something, I think it was the Lions and Sheik versus, was it Daniels,
Tyler, and Gabriel.
Yeah, that match was amazing.
The 16th anniversary show.
Yeah, that match
17th.
17, sorry.
So, yeah, dude, you're always one behind. What the heck?
PWA 18, barely legal. Coming up this March.
No, but
my.
Kurt, you better use that. But I love that.
I will be so I'm older than you. like by a few years.
I'm a child.
I am barely legal.
Okay, but with the exception of this guy, I'm probably the next oldest, and I definitely don't act.
I'm 31.
You're in the top.
32.
You're
There
in
you
the
go, you're
top
number 2.
2 fifths.
I'm number 3.
I'm a lot younger.
Yeah, and I totally act the youngest here.
Yeah, probably. But
Challenge
yeah,
accepted.
but
Children,
yeah,
please continue.
but the 6-on-6, I didn't even think of that until now when you brought up Jeff Tyler. But I really, really enjoyed that match. Daniel's coming off like a pro as always.
He is a consummate pro. There's no other way to put it.
Jeff Tyler just, Jeff Tylering it up. I don't like him. Other ones I want to talk about, MRB versus Jay Lethal. I absolutely love that match. Son of Irish versus Heavy Metal. I think this is the first time I've really, truly enjoyed a heavy metal match, and they killed it. And I'm going to say my match of the year, Son of Irish versus Andrew Hawks from the last RCW show. And I think it really added to me that I literally stood there with the Irishman and watched this match, and I loved it.
Good picks, KJ.
And V versus.
I was gonna say all of my matches. Negative. None of my matches. I didn't like any of them. I want to say I feel really awkward because he's in the room now.
Yeah, right. Isn't it?
Good job.
I don't.
I'm not the one who invited you over.
He just called me and he found out where I was and showed up. That's literally what happened. Yeah, that's what I just said. No, I liked Chris Parrish versus Son of Irish. That's what I liked. I cried after that match.
Apparently, I do well with little boys. I don't know.
Parrish. Honestly.
Oh my god.
On that note, well, mainly because I do have an article on ProWrestlingPost.com that just got published yesterday.
Cheap plug.
Yep, another cheap plug. I do have one for every promotion except for RCW, for the mere fact that I didn't get to watch enough RCW in order to.
Just put down Son of Irish versus Andrew Hawks.
Well, we'll go with that, but I didn't see it, so I couldn't call it. So I'll give you a quick detail of what I thought were each promotion's matches of the year. PWA, we've already mentioned it. Michael Richard Blaze versus Jay Lethal. The story told in that match was absolutely phenomenal, and not seeing MRB in the major promotions right now to me is still a travesty, but that's a story we can get on later. Spencer already touched on the CWC matchup with Pride taking on Dylan Stone from last August, which you can see on CWC Evolution.
On the Backbreaker Media Network's VOD page.
Thank you, Andre. 20 minutes of absolute gold with these guys, set up for over a year. For Monster Pro Wrestling, I'm actually going back to September, and this was just off the heels of the Pride Stone match, so I had some pretty high standards, but these guys definitely showed up, and that was Chris Parrish versus Sean Martins. Completely off topic. Thanks, Parrish. 20 minutes of a great match. The only reason this wouldn't be my A1 match of the year was the finish. The fact that there wasn't one. Yeah, well. To me, it was an excellent match. And speaking of excellent matches involving Sean Martins, Lakeland Pro Wrestling, which will soon be available on the Video On Demand channel.
BackbreakerVOD.pivotshare.com.
Thank you, Andre. The wrecking crew of Dean Richter and Sean Martins taking on the team of Son of Irish and Diablo. A hell of a tag match that happened up there in Chapter 1. I know it's only one show in, but it really did show up and did provide a great match for everybody to see, including that sick 450 from Son of Irish there.
She's busted out multiple times at RCW. And
yeah, absolutely. And then if you go down to Lethbridge, you got the PPW triple threat cruiserweight title match between Jumpin' Josh, Travis the Heat Copeland, and Bryn Watts. I'm going to leave it up as a free match to watch on the Backbreaker VOD channel for another couple days here, so you guys can experience what you're missing. It is an absolute phenomenal match.
It's fabulous.
And don't forget about Chris Parrish versus Kyle Sebastian.
Which one? There's like 300 of them in there. So.
The last one.
Don't watch it if you want to have a heart attack.
Fair enough.
Chris Parrish came out victorious.
But before we move on to our best categories, I forgot that I was going to throw this out here, the curveball for the most improved. I'm going with a company again. I want to take you back to the beginning of 2018, where we had one company in Edmonton that looked like it was pretty much ready to close, averaging 10 people a show. Been buried far deep, the point that I wouldn't even cover them.
The ring announcer quit on them.
Ring announcer quit. Both of them did. The GM stepped down real quick.
Yep.
But now they even had a now they've even had a WWE Hall of Famer get so drunk that
that was during that down part too.
Yeah, that was during the down part. That was supposed to be part of their saving grace. But in many points, that was the low point for them. And ever since then, they've been improving, and they are probably one of the top promotions in Alberta right now, and that's Real Canadian Wrestling.
Yeah.
Crowds are very strong, and I'm not going to credit it to the women's movement. I'm sorry. I'm not
No,
going
credit it to the guy they had announced the last show of the year.
Okay, Andre. as I have KJ staring at me like...
I was going to say, I don't want to take credit, but Envy was pretty cool.
Touche, you know.
Well, I don't know. I think I totally agree with you because you take it back to January 2018, and I wasn't even on my radar to go there. Went there, and it completely changed my career around, so that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it. I would say it was going to be a friends and family crowd there, but I don't even think family went. So
honestly, no.
No, they were in buildings that were fitting 75 people and not even having them a quarter full.
Well, they were in that one hall. They ran that show where Jared didn't show up. That one could fit a couple hundred people in it. I went to a show in January or February. I think there was a total in the crowd of probably 15 to 20 people. And
they were getting launched out of city. They got excommunicated out of Red Deer because they had no crowds there. So
and then they moved to the new hall in Edmonton, and Calgary picked up for them too. And they've been really filling up. And
they focused on booking rather than all the other stuff that they were trying to pull off. And
most of the card they focused on booking, except for Steven Styles area.
But that's another. I think Spencer's got something about that at the end here for his top things of 2019 that he's looking forward to. So we'll leave it for that.
Sullivan Styles Classic?
No. No,
I thought that was your favorite.
You shut up, Blake Parrish. You gotta wait for this here. All right, let's get back on the train here, and let's go with best tag teams for 2018. Andre,
can't pick us. We don't tag.
I know, because whatever. Because they tagged at least a couple times here. Western Lions. I will, as long as they're a team, I will pick them. But I gotta give shout outs to Lumberjack Larry and Mitch Clark for sure because they were phenomenal. And was it King B and T.Y. Jackson, who I've only seen wrestle a couple times, but man, are they good.
Absolutely.
Spencer.
Oh, thank you, Andre.
Sorry. The Millennial Rebels also.
Couple picks for me. I think that Lumberjack Larry and Mitch Clark absolutely have to be on there. I think they've done some fantastic work this year. A couple picks from the PWA that I have to make. I think, number one, you got to talk about the Above Average Joes. I think that they've been quietly the best tag team in the PWA this year, despite the fact that they only recently captured the championships. I think that they are quite easily the most entertaining tag team on that roster. And conversely, I've got to give a big shout out to Body Break, the former Flex Appeal.
Yes.
A bit
Body
in
Break.
flux at this point. I don't know what's sort of going on in the future on their end.
Body might have broke.
But I think that they were absolutely fantastic this year. I think that Bobby Sharp and Michael Allen Richard Clark, the longest name in pro wrestling, they've just got great chemistry. And they're guys that, Bobby Sharp's a Canadian independent legend, and I think that using him as a guy to sort of elevate Mark here is absolutely fantastic. And then you throw Kat Von Hees into that, which I know technically makes them a faction rather than a tag team, but there's a reason she's the top female in PWA because she's the only one. But she's the
There's
top.
a couple others.
Zoe
in
Sager.
there.
Oh yeah, Zoe Sager, recently debuted.
She's there. I'm not saying anything, but she's
No,
there.
you're fair. I only have watched one match of hers, so my apologies. But I think, now that you bring her up, I think that she's going to be a staple in there for the next little bit. But Kat Von Hees, I think that she adds a unique element to Body Break should they continue. And I think that if not the tag team of the year, they've got to be in the conversation.
KJ?
If I don't say the above average Joes, someone will be texting me later. So they're definitely number one. And then I had to do Mitch and Larry. Mitch and Larry for sure. They're those two tag teams right there. They're my favorite. And we'll get to this for our 2019 hopes and dreams, but I just want to say a match between those two teams wouldn't be horrible. I'm just saying.
The most ironic thing about Lumberjack Larry is that he and his football team lucked down and only won one championship. So Mitch Clark, good job, buddy.
I got one more, and I don't know how I didn't say this when I first saw it. Newfoundland Viking Ridge. They've had a great year and switching out and yes, using the Freebird rule, but I think they've dominated all year. They've been champs all year long for RCW, the tag champions. I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I think they've been champs all year. So
Just wait till 2019.
What?
Well, we'll just leave that there. Good picks by everybody. There is a few that I know I'm going to get this. Oh, I can't believe I didn't mention that. And the first one is out of PWA, and they just retired as a tag team. Team Hall of Fame.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't mention that.
Hall of Shame. Hall of Shame.
To me, those two together, along with a team that didn't tag last year, so I can't use them, were the two top tag teams in wrestling in Alberta last year. And the other one half of it's sitting to my left here. Unfortunately, they didn't tag last year. Actually, wait a second. You tagged once, so you do get the count. They tagged in March.
Tag struggle!
At a special benefit show in Red Deer. They
Won. Undefeated.
Chris Parisham and Ayek are one of the best tag teams. I'll give them that. But Team Hall of Fame, Duke Durango, Chris Steele, absolutely phenomenal every match that they're in.
And they were champions this year, too.
Yeah, absolutely. They were champions for a time. But speaking of champions, the team that has been the CWC Tag Team Champions for the entire calendar year, the Wrecking Crew of Dean Richter and Sean Martins, their mechanics in the ring. Without it, oh God,
Just wait till 2019.
The joys of having Parrish on the podcast.
I'm
folks.
never not going to pop for that.
I want to know now.
And other than that, we're starting to see a resurgence in tag team wrestling in Alberta once again. We're starting to get a few solid teams put together. And I just can't wait to see what 2019 brings up there. But let's go into the next topic where the room might be getting a little brighter here from the blushing.
KJ may not be able to leave through the door.
Pretty much. Best female wrestler.
Well, KJ, let's go to you first on this one.
Should we even let her talk about this?
Yeah.
I
know who she's picking.
I don't know.
KJ, what are your thoughts about the overall status of women's wrestling right now in Alberta? I'll save you from having to talk about yourself right now.
You know, I
All right,
I honestly, you might have to come back to me.
Andre, your picks.
Before I get to my pick, I'm going to give a couple shout-outs. And Kat Von Hees, who's been really good this year, she's had, especially working with men a lot, too. She's looking really good. Give a shout-out to the new RCW Women's Champion, Angelica, who has really stepped up.
We've already been there, Pat.
Has really stepped up this year. But my pick for RCW Women's Wrestler of the Year, and who I've only got to see for half the year, is Envy.
Oh, that sounded like a piece where you were going to elaborate.
She's flat out. She's my Women's Wrestler of the Year.
All right.
Yeah.
Nope, beauty. We'll go with that. To answer a bit of your question there, Mike, I think that women's wrestling in Alberta is a huge opportunity for every promotion out there, to be quite honest with you. And I think it's going to be something that you see a lot of the repercussions in that from Evolution, or sort of the growth of women's wrestling. It's really going to start hitting independent promotions this year. This year being 2019. I think that saying that 2018 was an awesome year for women's wrestling. You finally saw the RCW Women's Championship brought back, which hadn't been active for years. I think that through MPW, you're starting to see just a crop from maybe not all this year, but over the last few years and coming out of MPW, specifically coming out of MPW, you're seeing a lot of talented women come out. So obviously you've got to give a bit of a shout out to Kat Von Hees and Zoe Sager out of PWA. Both of them have been putting on great performances. Just even for myself, who's got limited experience with Zoe, I think she's put on great work in the couple of matches that I've seen her, both live and through their excellent Twitch channel on PWA. But it's hard not to look to RCW for the best women's wrestling here. I think that CWC has done some excellent work in starting to develop their women's scene. But I think that RCW, when you've got a combination of Angelica and Envy, who I would probably put as co-winners this year, you've got two excellent foundations for a great women's scene. And I think that not only do you see that, but there's been a couple of women, and I do apologize, Mike, because there's a few who have just sort of made appearances. You can't remember names, yada, yada, yada.
Fair enough.
But I do think that when you see two women like that who not only have started to build a scene on their own, but have brought back a championship,
rechristened a championship,
brought back a championship, WWE women's tag team titles, fucking yada, yada, yada.
Exactly.
It was at one point the RCW Intergender
that was
Championship.
Yada, 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 that one, Andre. You don't get to explain it.
Thank you.
I think that when you see two women like that who are setting a foundation for a great women's division, you're not only going to start to inspire women to start to come to RCW just to expand on that women's scene, but you are going to start to see women like Angelica, like Envy, who say, well, to, I guess, put the federation to it, PWA is not the only game in town, or CWC is not the only game in town, and Kat Von Hees isn't the only person you've got to wrestle, despite the fact that, admittedly, at this point, she's probably the most prominent name in women's wrestling in Alberta, just given the longevity she's had. I think that you're really going to start to see a shift in women's wrestling this year, and I think it goes to the co-winners, Envy and Angelica. A lot of credit, goes to the co-winners, Envy and Angelica.
Fair enough. And I don't think KJ wants to say
Yeah,
anything
no, you know
right
what?
now.
This is a lot like when Andre was not allowed to commentate on the RCW Quick Call show. Is because I don't think you can be an unbiased advisor to this one. So, KJ, your thoughts?
I honestly, okay. Before I went to RCW, I really don't think we were given the opportunity in Alberta to the extent that we were, even in the last few months. We were to a point, but until I went to RCW, they weren't giving me matches very long, you know what I mean? So we went there, and I'll give Squigs all the credit for this because the man's kept his word to me every single week. So
Gotta use the term man loosely on that
No, because he has been a man when it comes to the women's division. He has.
Whoa.
He has. He's kept his word to us.
Yeah.
And we've had good matches every single show, and we've been getting the opportunity. Hell, a year ago, if they would have said, hey, Kayla, you're going to be in a triple threat and you're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want. You have 15 minutes. Go right ahead. I would have been like, haha, you're lying to me. Here we are a year later. Boom, there we go. That's all I got to say. I think Squigs giving us the opportunity to do that in RCW is huge. And I would just like to give the award to Angelica, mostly for the fact that that girl is the easiest girl to work with that I've ever had a match with. So there we go.
Well, and you sort of do have to give it to Angelica because you already gave it to Angelica in the form of the RCW Women's Championship.
As Spencer,
Well, I mean, who made her look good?
as I'm seeing Angelica Barreda hit Spencer with a baseball bat, KJ hitting Spencer with a baseball bat right now. Frankly, everything that Spencer said about the women's division right now is apropos. The stuff that's done in between CWC and RCW, it is absolutely next level right now. Be interesting to see how an addition like Ali Zwicker can come in to make a difference here as well. You can see what Cherry Doll has done with matches against both KJ and Angelica. And from there, we're going to... I think we're going to see big things out of the women's division here. Having somebody like Jade come in from BC.
Yeah, the Envy clone.
Also known as Envy's twin.
Yeah.
I can see a lot more of that stuff coming up. I couldn't remember her name.
I was sitting there like, what's the Envy clone's name?
I could see a lot more of that happening now. And for the fact that there are good women's matches means you're going to bring more people in that have good matches. Nicole Matthews, Spencer, still waiting for you.
Yeah,
as he spoils one of my selections for 3 things we'd like to have happen in 2019.
Haven't gotten to it yet.
What can I say? I'm a spoiler king.
Ruin everything.
Yeah, I ruin everything. But let's move on to.
Yeah, you didn't give us your pick.
Yeah, he did. He was talking about.
The entire women's scene.
I've gone through enough wrestlers this year.
Yeah, you're not on the show. You're just a spectator.
I'm scared to give him a mic.
Hey, let him talk about women's, but don't put him on the male wrestler of the year.
I would rather do the other way around, but anyway, majority rules. Mr. Parrish, what do you have to say?
Well, I'm going to say 3 things about the women's wrestling. 1, they don't get the opportunity that they deserve. 2, it's only because all the companies in Alberta have too big of an ego to work together to give them the platform that they deserve.
I agree there.
3, it's because nobody wants to invest in the women's division. Therefore, bring in other women so they can learn to become better. Because if you keep putting the same matchups up, eventually it'll get stale no matter how good it actually is. Because as much as we want to say Envy and Angelica have absolutely kicked the shit out of expectation and out of a lot of other necessities.
Accoutrements.
Yeah. And we also saw introductions, like you said, in Ali Zwicker as a Cherry Doll, among others. It's not enough for this women's division because they need the platform to become bigger. If you're going to grow, you have to give them the chance. Yep. So I am begging a promoter in Alberta to invest in the division because just like you saw with women moving from company to company here, it's only a matter of time before they develop the balls to move past Alberta wrestling.
# booking struggles. Love it. Nicely done.
Thank you for taking everything out of my mind and putting it in your mouth.
That's hot.
There's a lot of people out there that want to say a lot of things about women wrestling. I've always been an advocate for it. Mm-hmm. Always. The fact that nobody else wants to give them an opportunity pisses me off.
Fucking A, Parrish.
Let's just move on to our
Men's Wrestler of the Year.
We will go back to that on a different podcast later on.
Oh, let's do it.
Uh-oh.
Wait, no, before we moved on, I just wanted to say thanks because every single boy in this room, man in this room, has encouraged the women's division and myself over the last, I don't even know, longer than a year, but we'll just say the last year. So thank you, boys, men, gentlemen. Thank you.
With that being said, I still hope Ronda Rousey is not in the main event of WrestleMania, and an actual worker is.
Ditto.
He should have been here a couple hours ago. He could have been on the other half of this podcast, but I digress. Male Wrestler of the Year, Andre.
Yeah. Okay, honorable mentions go to Shawn Martins, Chris Parrish, Pride, and Daniel Burns are all honorable mentions for me. How did you know, buddy? Michael Richard Blaze for me. I'm sorry to say, until he leaves, or until he doesn't appear in Alberta Wrestling anymore, will always be
ipso facto leaves.
When he leaves in Alberta Independent Wrestling, then somebody else will take my number one pick. Not to say I enjoy everybody else, but MRB to me just put on some of my favorite matches this year, and I really do. And don't get me wrong, like Daniel Burns, I've been a huge fan of for years. Chris Parrish, the same thing. I'm a huge fan of him for a long time. I think he was my first interview on when we were still at Edmonton SPN.
Always remember your first.
I very much do, but
I made a similar comment earlier.
But every time I see MRB get in a ring, I am never ever disappointed.
Fair enough.
Spencer.
Me, okay. As I go to hand off the microphone. There's definitely a few contenders, to be quite honest with you. I think that I chose to take, I guess, a PWI approach to this. You got to sort of look at what someone's done both in ring to impress someone, what they've done, or I guess not both, but a combination of what they've done in ring to personally impress myself, any accolades they've brought or anything like that to the table. So for me, it was a bit more difficult considering the fact that, MRB, you and I have talked about this, Andre. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, if not my favorite wrestler in the world. But he hasn't held a championship since March, right? I think that a lot... Night of Champions, excuse me. Sorry, screwed that one up.
Half a year.
June. So either way, half a year rather than 3/4 of a year. I think that if
half a year, but it's still consistently, except for a couple shows, worked at the top of the card of every
100%.
card.
I'm not disagreeing there.
Andre,
I'm not disagreeing
let
there,
Spencer
Andre.
talk.
I certainly enjoyed the main event of the last PWA show. Oh, right, MRB wasn't there.
Yeah, he was. He was in the...
All right, he interfered.
Western Lions
Already
versus
had to
Sheik
dig
and
into it.
Gabriel.
And I'm just shitting to shit. I think that MRB obviously is one of the guys that you can call a wrestler of the year. I think that you've got to look at a guy like Parrish. I'd bring you up in that too because you've literally got a record-setting reign for a championship or for a promotion's championship reign in this province. How can you discount that? Same way I look at the fact that heavy metal until a couple of months ago was a championship for 472 days. Like that extends over this year. I think you do have to look at stuff like that because not only is that showing that a promotion has faith in somebody, but it shows that a promotion has faith in somebody to bring crowds to a show. And people talk about the women's division and completely rightfully so in RCW, but I don't think you can discount the fact that they grew their crowds immensely with heavy metal as a champion the whole time.
Dude, I'll disagree on that one. 123,000% I will disagree on that one.
That's many percentages here.
Yes.
He won the title, and that company went to shit.
Over 472 days?
Yes.
He won the championship in 2017, and their crowds nosedived.
When did he lose it? You've got a mic too.
Yeah.
People are missing everything you're saying. People missed everything, so I'll point to him out.
He won the championship in 2017, and that's when their crowds pretty much dissipated.
Yeah.
It's only in the resurgence of Christian Strife coming in and becoming the main eventer,
Yeah.
that the crowds came back. They came back for his opponent, not for him.
And that's fair. And you guys are guys who
I
are
will
guys
never
who have
agree
watched
with Heavy Metal
RCW.
best of anything ever.
And you guys are guys that
except for one match.
so you can't qualify that you'll never agree with somebody, or I'll agree
never
with him
agree
on
he's
this
one of the top wrestlers in a company.
That degrades your entire point, saying I won't agree with anything 1,000% except for here.
He had
that's-
one
what?
good match this year.
Take out the one match part, and I will be the one that disagrees on that with
But that's fine.
mere facts.
You've qualified your point. For me, and that is me saying, as the next guy I was going to say is Christian Strife, because their feud thoroughly entertained a guy. I think that between the both of them, like we talk about the Millennial Rebels, like we talk about the thickness, I guarantee that we wouldn't be sitting here talking about how great thickness is if it wasn't for the Millennial Rebels. And I think in order to have a great champion like we do with Christian Strife, I'm not taking away, and he is a guy who I'd bring up on this. You can't do that without an opponent that somebody truly hates. And despite the fact that if everybody's going to come back with the crowds dwindle under Heavy Metal, the crowds dwindle under Top Talent, you guys had a champion who you guys were anxious and you guys both paid money to see have a championship taken from him, and time again that didn't happen. That turns everybody into a repeat customer.
Spencer,
that brings people into
I won't begrudge this topic. Because we don't want to sit here and make this a half-hour argument about.
Oh no, absolutely
this situation.
I'm sorry. I should have just kept my mouth shut.
No.
No, I love talking wrestling. That's what this is for.
That's for another podcast.
Okay,
to talk
hold on.
About.
Old man's talking now.
Which one?
Very old.
I'm the oldest one. What your point was he was the reason people came in to see money.
Yeah.
I will counter that fact with over 6 to 8 months, the company did not have people wanting to see anybody.
Yeah.
Whether it wasn't the fact that they wanted to see him lose the title, they just didn't want to see him.
A man named Epic Eddie Rude
would you
brought the
please
crowd
let
back.
me finish, Andre? Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting my full point in first. Yes, there were people that were influencers, such as Eddie Rude, as Andre was bringing up, as well as the resurgence of the NVR with the attachment of Gunnar. But Christian Strife was the credible champion that everybody wanted to come to see. And I do think that while it wasn't the entire reason that they came back, it is a good part of it. Mm-hmm. But your comment about Heavy Metal being the responsible for bringing in people into seats is not.
Oh, yeah, and maybe
Not
I
credible at
explained
this
that one poorly too, because I tried, like a guy tries to qualify, like it isn't strictly on, just like a bad promotion isn't strictly on one thing as well.
I got a feeling we found another over the top rope.
I think we need to sit down on over the top rope.
I hate the 1982 classic Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal.
So, any other picks that you have, Spencer?
As far as top wrestlers, no. There's a lot of guys that I would probably put on contention for 2019. To be quite honest with you, the more and it is a lot of thanks to a lot of the people in this room, but the more that I grow with Alberta wrestling and get familiar with people, I'm quite sure I'm leaving people off this list. I'm 100% sure I'm leaving people off this list. But that is the beauty of wrestling, is the more you know, the less you know. No?
Absolutely. So. Now, after that fiery debate, KJ, do you have any personal choices?
Please say Heavy Metal.
Besides the obvious one?
No, I had MRB and Strife on there as well. I think, especially when Strife won the title this year, I think it changed a lot. It kind of was like a turning point. And then even this summer, a lot of the wrestlers in Alberta, they kind of entered their way into RCW, and I think that was a huge change. So one of my MVPs is sitting to my right, but it's really weird because he's Mike, your heavyweight title run was great this year.
That's 2019, not 2018.
Yeah, he has a match booked already. We'll get there.
We're getting it booked.
Yeah, he's getting that cardio game strong.
Anyway, gonna do that somersault.
Please.
Mr. Parrish was one of my MVPs. He probably already knew that, though. And then Pride, of course, because if I don't say it, I just... No, he's definitely my MVP. Like, you look at how many good matches he's put on, I don't even know where to go from there. But yeah, Parrish and Pride were probably my top two, and then obviously Strife and MRB, they put on great matches as well. So there's my, in no particular order, top four right there.
Interesting. I have a few that you guys haven't brought up. Parrish will know a little bit more about one more than you guys will, but I would have to say, of course, Parrish has got to be on that list because. Thank you for stealing one of mine that I was on my list. Thank you. Well, I don't have a list written here. It's all in the old Breivik. Anyway.
Parrish's superpower.
Parrish has that innate ability that no matter which wrestler that he's with, can provide a quality match. Even Eddie Rude. So. Comments?
Well, he actually has to get in a ring for to have a quality match. He can't just bow out like a pussy because he.
All right, that's enough. Thank you, Parrish.
Whoa, that was hostile.
Out of RCW, of course, you mentioned Metal, Strife, whatnot. I'm going to give it specifically to one wrestler, and that's Andrew Hawks. Andrew Hawks, hell of a technician. Ever since he came back to RCW from his little stint in PWA, it's like a kid that just found home. He found his home. He finds himself comfortable there. Sometimes he has a tendency to use a few too many doors for my liking, but that's another story for another day.
Doors.
In CWC, Dylan Stone. That's one man I want to mention. Pound for pound, one of the strongest wrestlers in Alberta.
Yeah.
And always puts on a consistent match. I just don't think he is in a position right now where he wants to be in that heavyweight title scene.
Mm-hmm.
Once he wants to become part of it, he is going to dominate, and he could be one of the best wrestlers in Alberta, period.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. Like, sorry to interrupt there, but like,
go ahead.
As a guy who's watched, live, I should say, because like we talked about, it is different watching a match live versus watching on a VOD or anything like that. The first match I watched live, first full bell-to-bell match of his I watched live, was a match of the year candidate, and I think there's not really a ton else you can say that you can justify with something like that, right?
Absolutely, and sticking with CWC, two other wrestlers. First of all, the Cheetah Bear Jude Dawkins.
Yep.
A powerhouse that is just coming off a terrible leg injury that had him basically as my color commentator for the balance of 2017. Made a hell of an impact, especially on this man to my left.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up regaining the CWC championship at Kingdom Come in November. And the other man from CWC is the headline Sean Martins.
I mentioned Sean Martins,
which you kindly did. He's one of the categories of champ that we seem to have quite a bit of here in Alberta now.
There's only one.
No, there's more than one. There's, I believe...
No.
At the time of this playing, I believe we have 3 champs, but I'll digress. We'll talk about that another day here. But, of course, Pride. I could speak about his accolades, but the name is sort of apropos for his personality, so he could talk about himself just as well as I could. So,
he's now known as the Pride of Ireland.
Yeah, I don't even want to go there. But the other two that I want to bring up are coming primarily out of Lethbridge. One now is starting to work in CWC, and that, as Parrish mentioned, it was Sydney Steele. I got a feeling that Sydney Steele might be the breakout star of 2019 coming up.
The most active in 2018?
Well, he couldn't be active at all the shows because he couldn't get into MPW there for a couple months.
No, but he was still going everywhere else.
Yeah, pretty much. He was one of the most active, and I got a feeling that just because of activity, he's going to go up to another level here next year. There's something to say about quantity, then there's something to say about quality.
Well, he's doing 4 a month with one company, plus everything else he does.
Yeah, well, that, like I said, that's another topic for another day. And the other one I want to bring up is the former PPW heavyweight champion, Cougar Meat Kyle Sebastian.
Cougar Meat?
Yeah.
Cougar Meat, yeah.
Cougar
Okay.
Meat.
It's the best gimmick, one of the best gimmicks.
One of the best gimmicks in the world, and he plays it up better than anybody.
All right.
Fabulous.
I will have to see to believe.
You know, he was given the award, I believe it was Future Legend, at the Cauliflower Alley Club.
Yes, sir.
So you know that when your peers are giving you an award like that, you're going to be if you put the work in, you're going to be something special.
Yeah.
And he's proven it year after year that he is one of the best wrestlers to go through BC and Alberta right now. It's just Alberta fans don't get much of a chance to see it unless they're on our on PowerSlam TV or Backbreaker VOD, of course.
He was on the first indie show I ever went to.
Very cool.
But I think that's going to sum it up, guys. You guys have any other mentions for top wrestlers this year?
Nope. Like I said, I'm 100% positive, and I hope this encapsulates everybody. I'm 100% sure that I am leaving somebody off this list. There's just simply no way that you're not, right? But
by the way, shout out to Dan O'Burns once again.
I shouted him
100%.
out. I shouted him out first.
There you go.
That's why he said.
Because I love
that's
that-
why he said once again.
I love
And
that
Mitch
drunk
Clark,
bastard.
sorry, I want to throw that there too.
Once again. Yeah, I think that about covers it. I'm positive, buddy, that we're missing somebody on here, if not
good.
somebodies.
We will hear about it. I guarantee by January 3rd we're going to hear something.
Yeah, so our apologies in advance to all of our friends out there. But seriously, what a fantastic, fantastic year in wrestling. We talked about it in part 1 of the podcast. What a fantastic year of wrestling worldwide. What a fantastic year of wrestling in Alberta.
Absolutely. Well, let's think about next year. Our last topic before we get to our big announcement.
The final topic.
3 things you would like to see in 2019. Now, who would like to go first?
Can we each do one at a time
God.
kind of deal? Like, so
Okay,
we don't
cool. Yeah, let's
reveal
split her
all
up.
our 3 at one shot.
All right.
Andre,
go ahead,
you
Andre.
first.
It kind of applies to the majors. I want MRB to get signed and go somewhere.
All right. Spencer?
I would like to see Envy join the Newfoundland Viking Range to form NVR.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. I can't follow that. I don't even. I'm speechless. Okay. Okay. So my first one is a little bit biased, but I want to see Jack Pride in the heavyweight title picture and win a title,
Fair enough.
so he can be champ.
Champion.
Parrish, you want in on this? Your first one.
First, he won't be
What?
champ, or whatever you say.
Oh no, we have lots of shows to do in 2019. We're booked.
because
Yep.
he's gonna have to beat me in CWC, and if you go back in history, that's never happened. Just saying. I want to tag with Maniac, so if a promotion out there, if a
there's a promotion
if
that
a
might
promotion
book
wants to
that.
actually book that, please, we're looking at possibility.
Book that.
I
Yeah, man.
also
One at a
One at a time. Stop jumping.
want Mike to learn to share.
Oh,
I'm cool with that one. Yeah, I'm cool with that one.
Andre,
Oh no,
Mike,
it's
you didn't
your
even share
turn, Mike.
one, Mike.
I'm always the mop-up guy.
No.
your
Stop
turn, Mike.
cheating. Stop cheating.
It's
Andre,
your turn, Mike.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
one Mike.
Come on, Mike.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
Oh my God.
I'm saving mine for the big announcement here.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so this is kind of a fantasy more than anything. On your birthday, me and Spencer were at Beercade, and we were having a conversation with referee to be that we're not going to name. We had a conversation about we wanted to see a show of multiple promotions try to put one together.
Yep, done.
And I would want that more than anything. I think this year. But
We booked that entire
we booked
show,
an
too.
entire show.
I think we had
we
Western Lions versus Tag Struggle versus NVR as our main event.
Yep, but we
Book it.
We fantasy booked a show, but Oh, that'd be amazing.
All
but
right.
that would be amazing if we could see a show where promotions come together just one time this year. That's what I want.
Andre, my question is, who would be my match? This is just purely like
You
assuming
and
I am
Kat.
on the card.
You and Kat. I'd like to see it.
We'll bring someone in for that show.
I remember that because
No. Envy versus Nicole Matthews. That's the show I would bring her in for. He wants her in here.
Mike, you had a comment?
I do remember this. I was somewhat sober for my 40th
Vaguely?
birthday.
Yeah.
Like completely, but that's a different story. That match that you actually had booked was you had Envy teaming up with Rachel taking on Tessa with Angelica. That's what the tag
I honestly
match
think
was.
I've still got that match card on here somewhere, so we'll find that in a bit.
Yeah, he was typing it all into his phone.
Yeah, but you know what?
Oh, okay.
To go
Either
off
way.
of that point, because I, as always, have 4 points for this one. The two things that I wanted to see, one I can expand on quickly. I would love to see, like Parrish was mentioning, like I would love to see a promotion, ideally every promotion, buy more into their women's division. Whether that's bringing in Nicole Matthews, who, yes, is somebody I would kill to have come here. And Nicole Matthews, if you listen into this, like, hook a guy up with an interview. But you can bring in more than Nicole Matthews. You can bring in, like, anybody outside of the WWE is fair game. So whether that's spending the cash and bringing in a Tessa Blanchard or a Rachel Ellering or someone along those lines, that's something that is feasible for every company in Alberta, to be quite honest with you. So to me, as someone who I know people who have heard of Tessa Blanchard outside of the wrestling world, and that says a lot for someone outside of WWE, people would pay to come and see her. People would pay to come and see Nicole Matthews. People would pay to come and see people like Lacey Lane, for Christ's sake, and I know that's not even my first pick. I think that if you were to invest in the women's division, whether it's double down on what you do currently here in Alberta, great. But I also feel like you do need to bring in, like Parrish was alluding to, like you have to bring in non-Albertan talents. But when you do that, I think you have to. The biggest issue I had with PWA at the 17th anniversary show, because I bought tickets the day, or not the day, but I bought tickets because, Tennille Dashwood was announced. I think the biggest mistake that they made there was having Tennille win. I think that if you were to push your Alberta talents and show them as credible threats to, for lack of a better way to put it, these outsiders, I think that you were really going to be a huge boon for Alberta
That's
women's
more
wrestling.
of her winning is more of a contractual issue versus a.
We don't need to get into
that,
the politics
I'm not.
behind that.
That's exactly
regardless.
it, and I don't know a ton about it as is. So whether it's feasible or not,
We're
I'm not here to talk about the feasibility of it. I'm here to talk about, like, this is what I would like to see as, to be quite honest with you, someone who attends his fair share, if not more than fair share, of shows. So if any promotion out there, whether you be RCW, PWA, CWC, hell, I've driven hours for wrestling shows. I would drive hours to watch someone like Nicole Matthews or
Radway or
Tessa.
Bonneville.
Oh, it appears as though those are places that are hosting wrestling events now. Which brings me to my second point. Why these places are hosting wrestling events is because of the lack of an open door policy in Edmonton. And I think that that is the biggest and best thing that you could see happen in the Edmonton region over 2019 is whoever is listening, whatever out there is listening, open the doors, because people are paying to go see matches that should be happening in Edmonton because you guys won't book them.
I know at least one promoter is willing to open the doors.
Well, you know, we could let's get it. I got a feeling that's gonna be an epic article / podcast, because that is one of my future articles.
Over the top rope, baby.
Spencer Love, you're my hero.
Anyway, Kate.
No, honestly, I just wanted to build on what Andre said about having kind of like a big, almost like all-star show, essentially. I wouldn't want to see any titles defended, though, on it. But I would like to see, like, the best of the best. Like, you think about individual, like, wrestlers in the main event scene right now, and obviously you're going to be like, oh, my God, my main event's going to be MRB and Parrish. You're like, holy crap, you know what I mean? And so, like, matches like that where you have, like, the best of, I guess, essentially Alberta on one show, like whether it be here, like it probably wouldn't be in Edmonton, but it could just as well be in Calgary or even CWC, Red Deer, sorry, because they always draw great crowds for CWC. Somewhere around there where these people like know these names, and you can have like the best tag teams in Alberta have a obviously not a one-on-one match, but a tag match. You know what I mean? I would love to see that, and I hope I get booked on it. Someone book me on it.
Definitely.
I want a match on this All-Star show. I'm not just pitching it because I want to go as a fan, you know.
Spence, you got any money?
Yeah, Spencer. Spencer, book me, please.
Parrish, you got a second one you want to bring up?
I want the guys who know how to wrestle, and I want the guys who should be learning how to wrestle off shows.
There's a mic drop if I ever seen one.
All right.
Mr. Andre, number 3.
I'm pretty much out of stuff. Those are pretty much, that's all really.
I already know Andre's number 3. He wants to see Envy as champ.
Oh, that too. Oh, MRB versus Chris Parrish.
There you
Come on,
go.
we do shows outside of Edmonton. If we get some more Radway shows this year.
Yes. Anyway, Spencer.
The booking decision of the century: Mike
Oh,
the
I
referee versus Squig in a loser leaves town match.
Can we book the winner too?
With Chris Parrish as the special guest referee.
I would pay to see that.
To be honest, guys, I would never win a wrestling match with
No
Squig.
holds barred.
Let's have let's
weapons
have
illegal.
No. Let's have a decathlon.
Like an academic decathlon?
No.
Yes.
Spelling bee.
Well, that'll work.
Yeah, spelling bee. Chris Parrish is the guy that reads the words off.
Let's continue different promotions competing on the same night so the guys who know how to work can learn to become even better and more marketable.
It's almost as though you know what you're doing, Parrish.
KJ, you got another one?
Oh,
as
okay.
we finish off
so
here?
my third is a total dream match between two of my best friends. And we talked about it earlier, but I want to see Aiden Adams versus Jack Brad. Boom, make it happen.
To be
Radway
honest,
or somewhere.
of all the ones we've heard so far, I think that probably is the most realistic of all of them. Under the current scope of things.
I think a Mike versus Squig
MRB
blood
versus
feud
Chris
is very
Parrish.
realistic.
You don't think MRB versus Chris Parrish is possible?
I think it's highly plausible, but we'll have to see.
We can plause it. I can definitely plause that.
I'm going to convince the promoter.
Parrish
to make
wants
that
the
match.
mic again.
What about Tag Struggle versus NVR? Or
versus the Western Lions.
Or what about OWE versus NVR?
Ooh.
These guys forget about the OWE.
We need a few out of town shows this
If you guys talked about surprises of 2018, OWE came back. Nobody saw that coming.
True.
All right, now that these guys are done their little picks there. Personally, for 2019, I want to have the ability to have somebody go in and see every promotion somewhere on one site for everybody to check out all their matches. Oh wait, don't we have that now?
Where?
No, actually, it is a wish because it actually doesn't become official until yesterday.
Yeah.
The RCW contract did not officially kick in until then. So
This is fair. And there's still holdouts. It's still a dream.
every promotion outside of PWA is now available on backbreakerpov.pivotshare.com.
I got a dream match. Irishman versus Son of Irish.
Oh, man.
I want that.
There we go.
You can't even spank your kids anymore, nonetheless wrestle them.
Fair enough. The other one,
Breaking Fabe.
the other ones I want, I want a little bit more cohesion between the promotions, sort of opposite of what Parrish wants, where he says he wants promotions running on the same night. That's an argument we could get into on another day on opposite points here. The other one I want is just sold out buildings for every show. We have some of the top talent across the country and some of the most passionate fans in the world.
That's why I said what I said. both arenas to fill out. I want both venues to do well. I don't want them to share fans. I want them to bring in more fans so we can actually increase the amount of eyes on this business, because that is what our fucking jobs are.
Fair enough. But speaking of that, I'm going to go back to a point where actually Parrish brought it up. And this leads into our big announcement.
Major news.
Oh my God, it's huge. It's towering over us.
There's one thing that a lot of people have noticed when it comes to the Backbreaker, Edmonton SPN, yada, yada, yada. Every other reiteration I've had of this ever since
It's that they're flexible.
Well, I actually started this back. People don't realize I started this way back in 2011 with a call-in show. That was rather interesting, to say the least. A 90-minute call-in show with no callers, but I digress. But you get a few listeners. Yeah, fair enough. But the one thing that you guys have always noticed, I've always been at the helm, and I've always been pretty much the solo guy in charge. This network is getting to the point now where it is too big for me to handle it on my own. So,
Too big for me to handle on my own. Title of my sex tape.
Title of Mike's sex tape.
for 5 cents, I'm trying to make a good announcement here, and these guys got to ruin it.
You set it up for too long for me not to continue it.
Speaking of too long, this podcast is going too long.
99.
Anyway, so our big announcement.
Huge announcement.
As of January 2nd,
Huge.
we are, the Backbreaker Media Network and Win Column Sports are doing a little bit of a combining talent arrangement, I think is the best way to put it here.
Yeah, haven't really figured out completely the logistics. So, ladies and gentlemen, this one will be flexible. It is all over the spectrum here.
Well,
but
essentially what we're looking at, and I think this is probably the easiest way to explain it, Backbreaker Media is now a member of Win Column Sports and will be handling all the podcasts for Win Column Sports.
So we're a division of Win Column Sports now?
Essentially.
I love it.
For lack to basically put it as a business term, that would be the easiest way to explain it.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, what that means for you, the fine, sexy listeners of the Backbreaker Media Network, that means not only do you get your regularly scheduled content, that means total nonstop anarchy. That means all of your quick calls. That means Sounds of Struggle every Friday. You'll also be enjoying the fine dulcet tones of myself, my brother of discussion, Hayden Love, the Fry and the Guy Show, the Is It Over Yet podcast, and all of the fine content over at the Win Column Sports Network coming straight into your ear holes from Backbreaker Media.
Absolutely. Don't forget about Monday Night Shaw, as well as the brand new rechristened podcast that Spencer's been having a little trouble coming up with a name, but we came up with not we. You came up with a brilliant name for it.
Me?
Your interview show.
Yes, Exclusives with Love will air exclusively.
I believe it was Conversations with Love.
Exclusives? Conversations? We've changed it up a couple times.
We'll figure it out.
We're figuring it out. The logistics. We haven't signed the contracts. We haven't gotten anything on there yet.
We haven't applied for the patents yet. So
100%. The wheels are still in motion here. But yes, they will be. Everything coming out of this sweet, sweet sound hole of Spencer Love will be coming through the Backbreaker Media Network, coming to you on January. June 2nd is a long ways away. January 2nd, 2019, exclusively on the Win Column Sports Network.
But that's not all.
But there's more.
There's also going to be possible articles as well. I know I'll be doing a little bit of writing.
Will be.
I'm going to
read now?
Our articles have a lot of pictures, Parrish. You can fake
there
your way
are
through.
apps out there that can read it to you. Don't worry.
I believe I'm going to try and get some of our other members of our network are going to try and do up some articles as well. And they will be presented on the Win Column Sports Network. Details will be coming out, folks. But I'm really excited because it is now, I would say it's pretty much official that Win Column Sports and Backbreaker Media are the home of Alberta wrestling.
I wouldn't disagree with you there, my friend. We have been bringing you the breaking news, reviews, and previews from the world of Alberta wrestling. We are very excited, I know I speak for Mike in saying it, to continue to bring you the best wrestling in the world, and we all know that the best wrestling in the world is in the best province in the world here in Alberta, Canada.
And the fact that we're combining our forces is just going to make it that much better.
We are now the official mega powers of Alberta wrestling, and you, my friend, are the Hulk Hogan in this one.
Don't call me that. Don't call me that. We
Love Breaker Incorporated.
Love Breaker?
Sexy.
Breaking Love Incorporated.
Breaking Love Inc. BLM.
We'll work on the names.
Anyway, we'll worry about that later. It's time for us to wrap up this show because even the sad part is
That needs to be one of the podcasts.
With half the categories, this podcast is almost gone, just as long as the last one. So we're gonna wrap this up here. KJ,
plug your shit.
Yeah, there you go.
Plug your shit. Twitter and Instagram, Kayla Jamies.
Spencer.
Well, there's many places you can find us, including on the Backbreaker Media Network. As always, follow Win Column Sports, WCS Sports CA on the Twitter machine, or Win Column Sports pretty well anywhere else on any other social media, all worldwide. To follow for your previews, reviews, and breaking news, not only from wrestling, not only from Alberta, but worldwide on the most interesting shit out there. I can promise you that. Personally, if you are interested in my opinions, not only on wrestling, but on the wide world of sports, not politics, anything outside of that, follow me at SpennyLove_WCS. Other than that, you guys are going to have to request to find me as a friend, so you can feel free to do so at your leisure. Just depends on whether or not I know you.
Fair enough. Andre, who's always looking for friends?
At Twitter, I already have Spencer as a friend. I'm good. I'm on Twitter at that Canada guy, on Instagram at that Canada dude. You can please check out Total NonStop Anarchy on the Backbreaker Media Network, which is in association with Win Column Sports. Please check out my appearances on the podcast Remember the Game from my good friend Adam Blank 17. Got it right this time. And just happy to be part of all of this.
Fair enough. Parrish, you want to plug anything? Or God, why did I say that to him?
Because it's courteous.
Say the one that's on his hat. That's what I'm wondering.
No, I was going to say the one that's on his head. Ooh, I'm just kidding. Plugs, hair plugs. Yeah. No, I'm going to plug my Twitter at Chris Parrish, my Instagram at Chris.Parrish, my podcast, which is located on Backbreaker Media, a division of Win Column Sports. Sounds a struggle.
Back love.
And I'm also going to say follow at WrestleMania because he's not here, and I love him to death. Both Twitter and Instagram.
And folks, don't forget, check out wincolumnsports.ca for all your details of Backbreaker Media, as well as all great things wrestling. I am at Mike the Ref. On Instagram, I'm Mike the Ref EDM. And the Twitter account for Backbreaker Media is Backbreaker Media, because we're way too Canadian to need an A. But other than that, let's hope we get a great 2019. We're looking forward to it. And on behalf of everyone here, I want to thank everyone for checking out Backbreaker Media Honors Alberta Independent Wrestling 2018.